Hey guys, it's Mrs. Banneker here. We're going to talk about argumentation in case you missed it in class or you need a refresher. All of the information comes from your orange book, Seeing the Pattern, in Chapter 13. Um, Here you can find the notes that we've given, plus any extra essays that you might want to look at before the quiz or before the final exam. The video is going to be done in a couple of parts just because there's a lot of information. So if you start watching this video, you realize you need the next one, feel free to skip ahead. Or if you want to watch both and just get a full refresher, that's fine too. So let's start at the beginning. An argumentative paper or any kind of argument focuses in on a narrowed issue. If your issue is too big, it's going to be harder to persuade people to see the way that you do. And because you're persuading people, you want to make sure that your issue is controversial. If you don't have at least two sides, there's no reason to argue. So make sure that some people, some reasonable people, would disagree with you. And then have a focused thesis stating what your position is on the issue. And then you're going to give specific evidence to support that. If you don't have any evidence, people are not going to buy into your argument and change their way of thinking. Finally, you want to make sure whatever you're arguing about has some sort of personal significance. You're not picking some topic that's really far away from you that you don't really know about and you don't care about. If you don't care about it in some way, then there's no reason to write about it. You want to be involved in the topic and ideally have some sort of expertise. Doesn't mean you're not going to need any research, but if you can share your own personal experience, it's going to make your argument more convincing, it's going to make you more credible, and it's going to make the arguing process a little bit more enjoyable to you. Once you have your topic and you know what you're arguing, then you want to have a thesis statement. And in your thesis, you're going to have a specific claim. Claim is a word you're going to hear a lot with argumentation. We have claims in our thesis, and then each body paragraph has a claim as well. The claim in your thesis is going to tell the readers your position on the issue, and it needs to be pretty specific and more specific depending on the length of your essay. You guys are writing 3 to 4 page papers, so you're not going to be writing these huge big claims like the one you see in red about animal testing where you have a lot of ground to cover. That could be covered in several pages instead of just 3 to 4. So to make it more specific, you might narrow it down to say we should prohibit animal testing when it comes to skincare products and cosmetics. That's going to help you focus in a little bit more, give you a little less to look up and research in order to support your position. When you're writing your claims, you always want to avoid, look, I use absolutes, but you really want to avoid using absolutes or generalizations. Rarely are things always true or never true or true for all people. So try to be a little bit more reasonable and limit your claim in some way by qualifying it. So saying some people think this or some people may think this. It kind of incorporates some doubt into your thesis, but it makes it a little bit more reasonable and it shows that you're thinking that there might be some people that it doesn't fit. So it shows that you are a little bit more reasonable as an author, as a source. As with all writing, you want to consider who you're writing for. So argumentation definitely has to have careful audience analysis. So you're going to argue differently, you're going to write differently for various types of audiences. And here's what I mean by that. If you have an agreeing or friendly audience, there is no point in trying to get them to think the way that you do because they already do. So if I was going to argue that cats are the best pets to have, cats are better pets than dogs, I don't need to convince my agreeing audience that cats are better pets. I want to urge them to take action. Maybe I'm writing to an audience that likes cats but doesn't have any. Okay, so I'm going to urge them to go adopt cats. Okay, I don't necessarily have to give them a bunch of background information on cats if they're already interested in it, but I'm going to build some emotional ties with them, show the common ground that we have, and show the love for cats that we have to get them more compelled to take action. If I have a neutral or wavering audience that doesn't see things the way that I do, they're on the fence about cats, I'm going to have to give them more background information, address some of the misunderstandings about the topic, talk about why cats are so important, okay, tell them why the issue is important, and really I want to make sure that they trust me. If they're on the fence and they don't trust you, you're not going to be convincing. So I gain trust by giving solid evidence, and discussing both sides, acknowledging that there are people who don't agree with me, conceding points when necessary, and then refuting points that I can refute. And I also want to make sure that I am straightforward. You're not hiding anything for a neutral or wavering audience, because if they think that they're not being told the whole truth, they're not going to buy into it. A disagreeing or a hostile audience is a little bit different. Think about this like a heated argument where somebody gets so passionate about what they believe that they might raise their voice at you. You are probably not going to change their mind completely. So your goal is not necessarily to get them to think differently or change their belief, but maybe just to consider another side or be open to another side. With a disagreeing or hostile audience, you really, really, really want to make sure you follow a logical line of reasoning. Again, think about that heated argument that you get in and someone's like getting really worked up. Those kinds of arguments, in those kinds of arguments, people will pounce on you if you make an error in logic. So you really want to make sure that you're following a logical line of reasoning. And you want to establish some common ground before stating your claim. Build the trust, show what you have in common, so that your disagreeing audience is a little bit more receptive to your way of thinking. Once you have your main thesis, you have an idea of the claims that you're going to be making. These are the reasons that you're using it to support your thesis. You want to make sure you're supporting everything with evidence. So again, remember I said that claim is going to be used several times. When we talk about claims in the body paragraphs, these are really just reasons why you believe the way that you do. Okay, so it answers the question, why do I have an opinion on this issue? Why do I have this opinion on this issue? And you want to back up the thesis statement. So if I was going to argue that school uniforms should be required in public schools, that's my thesis, and there's a claim there. My reasons that I'm giving are going to be that they reduce clothing costs, they eliminate distractions, and they reduce peer pressure. Okay? Within each paragraph, I'm going to need to pull in evidence to support that reason. I can use facts, statistics, personal experience, expert testimony. However, you want to make sure that you kind of try to blend types of evidence just so that you have a more well-rounded support. If you're using only statistics, that can be dangerous because statistics can be easily skewed one way or the other. If you're using only personal experience, then it can become hearsay, your word against somebody else's. So a balance is going to be really important. And audience awareness, again, is really key here, because knowing about your audience is going to help you pick the kind of evidence that's going to be most appealing to them. When you have your evidence and claims, you want to link them together with warrants. Warrants connect the evidence to the specific claim and then back to the thesis. Warrants, again, as with everything that I'm talking about here, it goes back to audience awareness. You want to tie in the audience's beliefs to help link the claim and the evidence. So look at my example. My claim is that smoking shouldn't be allowed in public spaces. My evidence is that it causes health problems in smokers and non-smokers, and I'd probably give more specifics about what kind of problems these are. My warrant is playing on the belief that people have, hopefully, that human beings have a right to feel safe in a public space, okay? And they have a right to be protected from others harming them. So I'm going to tie back to the Constitution and say the Constitution said we're supposed to promote the general welfare. And so citizens are entitled to be protected from the actions of others, harmful actions of others when visiting public spaces. So the warrant, what makes my claim valid, is saying, look, this is in our Constitution. Hopefully we buy into our Constitution, okay? And so this makes my claim a reasonable claim based on the evidence. So thinking about audience and claims, which audience do you think would be most interested in these claims on school uniforms? Think about the people who are most impacted by these issues. So clothing costs, students might pay for their own clothes, so I could see students being interested. But more than likely, it's going to be parents, people who are typically footing the bill for clothing. Eliminating distractions, people who deal with those distractions in the classroom on a regular basis. It's probably going to be more administrators and teachers. And then a claim about reducing peer pressure, people who deal with peer pressure, deal with the consequences of peer pressure on a regular basis. That's most likely going to be students and parents. So think about your audience. Think about what claims are going to be most appropriate for them, what claims are going to be more appealing to them, so that you can be more convincing to your specific audience. Alright, here's a little preview to video 2. If you need to know about this information, continue on with the second video. Otherwise, you can stop and move on to whatever other work you need to do for class.